Hi, everyone. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with me tonight. If you're new here, welcome to a space where we sit with the hard stories, the ones that break us open and then quietly put us back together. If you've been with me before, you know I never rush these. I let every heartbeat, every hidden tear, and every slow turn of justice breathe. Tonight, I'm sharing the story I've carried closest to my chest, the one that still makes my pulse quicken when I remember certain nights. Grab your favorite drink, settle into a comfortable spot, maybe keep a tissue nearby. This is a long one, around 2 hours if you stay with me until the final word, because every detail, every quiet fear, and every moment of unexpected healing deserves to be felt fully. That if you've ever been blamed for something that lived deep inside someone else's insecurity, if you've ever watched love turn into accusation, this story is for you. Let's begin where it once felt safe and full of promise. The air that evening carried the scent of salt water and fresh ink from the little coastal book fair. I was 26, arranging faded copies of Pride and Prejudice on a wobbly table when Mark stepped into my world, tall and confident, with warm caramel eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He picked up the book and said in that gentle, magnetic voice, "I've never read it, but if you recommend it, I'll trust you with more than just a story." Something inside me softened instantly. We talked for over an hour amid the crowd. He was the new financial advisor at the downtown bank. And I taught high school literature and secretly dreamed of writing my own novel someday. Our first real date was a slow walk along the pier as the sun dipped into the sea. Our second involved him burning pancakes in my tiny kitchen while I read aloud, both of us laughing until our sides hurt. He listened like every word I spoke was precious. 2 years later, on that same pier, with the sky painted in rose and molten gold, he knelt. The simple diamond ring caught the last light like a quiet vow. His voice trembled with emotion. "Sophia, I want every tomorrow with you, the beautiful ones and the difficult ones. I want to build a family where you never doubt how deeply you are loved." I said yes, through tears of pure joy. Our wedding was small and magical. Wildflowers threaded through my hair, bare feet on cool grass, the laughter floating on the ocean breeze. Mark's best friend from college, Ethan, stood as best man. Ethan was the steady one, quieter, more observant, the kind of person who noticed when your coffee had gone cold and quietly replaced it. His toast brought tears to many eyes. To Sophia, the woman who finally taught Mark how to truly listen to his own heart. Mark pulled me close afterward and whispered against my hair, "He's right. You are my everything." That same year, we bought the charming white house with the wraparound porch. I planted roses along the fence, soft blush pink and deep velvety red, whose fragrance filled the air after every rain. Mark built a wooden swing in the backyard with careful hands. "This is for our future children," he said, kissing my forehead tenderly. 2 boys and a girl, or however many come. "I just want to be a dad with you, Soph. That's the only dream that truly matters to me." The longing I felt whenever he spoke those words was so deep it felt like a living ache in my chest. For 2 joyful years, we tried to conceive naturally. Month after month, nothing. Then the doctors became part of our story. The first specialist was kind and hopeful. These things often take time. We tried pills, injections, and tracking apps that turned every cycle into a tense countdown. Hope began to fray like old fabric. By year 5, we were making the 2-hour drive to the city fertility clinic regularly, where needles pierced my skin while Mark sat beside me, his jaw clenched in silent frustration. I still remember the exact afternoon the first real fracture appeared. In a sterile room that smelled of antiseptic and unspoken fears, and the head doctor looked at me gently and said, "Sophia, the results indicate diminished ovarian reserve and some scarring. It's going to be extremely challenging." Mark's hand tightened around mine, but the entire drive home was wrapped in heavy silence. That silence pressed against my ribs like a growing weight. In public, he remained supportive, holding me through the tears after each negative test. But in the quiet hours of night, the questions turned sharper, more pointed. "Are you certain you're doing the injections correctly? Maybe the stress from teaching is working against us. You know, not every woman is meant to carry a child." Each comment felt like a small, precise cut. I began crying alone in the shower, letting the water mask the sound of my sobs. My own body started to feel like a traitor, and my marriage slowly began to feel like one too. Ethan would send occasional, gentle texts. "How's my favorite literature teacher holding up? Ice cream and bad jokes available anytime you need them." I answered with light emojis, never revealing how crushing the weight had become. Then came the stormy Thursday that ripped my world in two. I arrived home earlier than usual from a parent-teacher meeting. Mark's phone sat on the kitchen counter, vibrating persistently. The screen illuminated with a name I barely recognized, Lisa. The preview message burned into my eyes. "Baby's kicking so much today. Can't wait for you to feel it tonight." My legs gave way instantly. I collapsed onto the cold tile as rain pounded the windows like angry demands. My heart slammed against my ribs so violently I feared it might shatter them. And I read those words repeatedly until they blurred with hot tears. 4 months. 4 months of deception, while I had been pumping my body full of hormones and praying desperately. When Mark finally walked through the door, rain dripping from his coat, he didn't even attempt to deny it. His face carried an unsettling calm, almost like relief. "She's pregnant, Soph, 4 months along. I didn't plan for this, but she can give me the family you apparently can't." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I begged, my voice raw and breaking. I screamed until my throat felt scorched. I reminded him of every promise made on that sunset pier, every shared tear in those cold clinic rooms. He packed a bag while I crumpled on the floor. "I still love you," he said flatly, "but I deserve to be a father. And I need this chance." He left that same night to be with Lisa, the 28-year-old bank teller who had secretly been his emotional and physical comfort for more than a year. The divorce papers arrived coldly 2 weeks later. Word spread quickly through our tight-knit town. Poor Mark, he wanted children so badly. Sophia really tried her best, bless her heart. Almost no one questioned why the medical focus had remained solely on me. At 33, I found myself alone in the house where the backyard swing now seemed to mock me with every gust of wind. The roses I had nurtured so lovingly began to wither because I couldn't find the energy to care for them. Nights blurred together, cereal eaten mechanically at the sink, hours spent rocking alone on that swing in complete darkness until my legs went numb with cold. As the loneliness felt endless, Ethan reached out a few times with careful messages. I'm here if you ever need to talk. No pressure at all. I couldn't bring myself to respond. Even his name carried too many echoes of the life I had lost. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house at a painful loss. With only 2 suitcases, I drove 3 hours north to a peaceful mountain town where my name meant nothing to anyone. I accepted a quiet editing position at a small publishing house. Losing myself in other people's manuscripts became my lifeline as I slowly tried to rediscover my own voice. Healing came in fragile fragments. I joined a book club. I began taking long solo hikes on the mountain trails, letting the crisp air slowly expand my lungs again. I practiced smiling at strangers without forcing it. Yet underneath the surface, a persistent fear whispered, what if Mark had been right all along? What if I truly was broken? Then on one crisp autumn evening at the cozy bookstore cafe, Ethan unexpectedly walked in. My breath caught sharply in my throat. He looked subtly different. Hair a bit longer, carrying a quiet, grounded confidence I hadn't fully seen before. He had quietly transferred to the same city several months earlier without ever mentioning it to Mark. We sat together and talked for hours. He confessed he had witnessed Mark drifting away for a long time and had hated every second of it. You deserve infinitely better, Soph. You always did. What started as warm friendship, shared coffees, quiet dinners, the evening walks where our hands occasionally brushed, slowly revealed something much deeper that had been patiently waiting in the background for years. One stormy night, after I poured out my deepest fears about ever trusting again, Ethan gently cupped my face in his hands. His gaze was steady and sincere. I have been in love with you since the day I stood beside Mark at your wedding. I never told him. I never told you. But I'm telling you now, I don't want to be anyone's second choice. I want to be your only choice, if you'll have me. Tears fell freely down my cheeks. Fear and fragile hope warred inside me. I asked him to wait 6 long months while I returned to therapy and confronted every lingering doubt and scar. The suspense during that period was constant. Mark had begun sending sporadic texts. Heard you moved away. I hope you're not still bitter about how things ended. Then came the unsettling 2 a.m. silent calls, where I could only hear his breathing on the line. I changed my number twice. He somehow found the new one each time. The dread of him discovering this new delicate chapter and tearing it apart kept me awake many nights. Ethan remained patient and kind through it all. He cooked my favorite comfort meals. He listened without judgment for hours when I spoke about the children I had once believed I would never hold. His unwavering presence started to feel like the safest place I had ever known. One radiant spring morning, after we had quietly moved in together and planned an intimate wedding with only 2 witnesses, I took a pregnancy test on a sudden impulse. 2 vivid pink lines appeared almost immediately, and my hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the test. I took 2 more, each confirming the same impossible truth. Heart pounding wildly, I drove alone to the fertility clinic, the same one from my past life. The new specialist examined the blood work and ultrasound, then looked at me with genuine astonishment. Sophia, your hormone levels are excellent. This is a strong, viable pregnancy. In fact, it appears you're carrying twins. Twins? I sat in the parking lot afterward, laughing and sobbing uncontrollably as the cool mountain breeze brushed my tear-streaked face. When I finally managed to call Ethan, my voice broke with disbelief and overwhelming joy. He left an important meeting without hesitation, found me still sitting on the curb, and pulled me into his arms while I repeated the news like a prayer I was terrified to fully believe. We kept the pregnancy quiet at first. Being high risk meant weeks on bed rest, but those months became some of the most serene and beautiful I had ever experienced. Ethan gently rubbed my swollen feet, read children's books aloud in ridiculous voices that made me laugh until my sides hurt, and painted the nursery in soft gray tones, accented with warm, sunny yellow, while I watched from the bed, my heart swelling with a fullness that bordered on pain. Even so, threads of fear wove through the joy. I had vivid nightmares in which Mark suddenly appeared at our doorstep, demanding explanations and threatening to unravel everything. Ethan would wake and hold me close through the darkness, murmuring, "He can't reach us here, and this life is ours now." Yet the lingering what if still cast a faint shadow. The twins entered the world on a wild, snowy January night amid howling winds. A boy and a girl, small but remarkably strong and perfectly healthy. We named them Lucas and Lily. Lucas inherited Ethan's calm, thoughtful eyes. Lily carried my smile and the most endearing little dimple that appeared when she cried. I sent one single photograph to Mark's mother with the simple caption, "They're here." Then I switched off my phone for a full month and devoted myself entirely to holding my babies, while soft snow blanketed the world outside our windows. 5 years passed in a tender tapestry of everyday wonders. The first wobbly steps across the living room, preschool giggles that echoed through the house like music, and sticky little fingers proudly presenting crayon drawings labeled for Daddy Ethan. I finally published my debut novel, a gentle story about second chances that somehow resonated with readers who needed it. Ethan earned a well-deserved promotion to partner at his firm. We purchased a beautiful home with a spacious backyard and built a sturdy swing set, the kind that creaked happily under the weight of running, laughing children. Life felt beautifully complete, but the past has a quiet way of returning when you least anticipate it. The letter arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Mark's mother had received a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. She hoped for one final family gathering to celebrate her 75th birthday before intensive treatment began. The invitation was addressed to me as well. In her shaky handwriting, she had added, You were always like a daughter to me. Please come if your heart can find the space." I stared at those words for several long days, my stomach nodding with conflicting emotions. One quiet evening, Ethan asked gently, "Do you feel ready to face this chapter again?" I pictured Lucas and Lily chasing bubbles across the old backyard. I imagined the expression that would cross Mark's face when he saw me not merely surviving, but genuinely thriving. And I quietly said yes. The drive south on that warm June Saturday felt both endless and too short. The twins bounced excitedly in their car seats, wearing matching sunny yellow outfits, bombarding us with endless curious questions about Grandma Rose. Ethan held my hand firmly the entire way. his thumb drawing soothing circles, yet I could sense the coiled tension in his shoulders. Yeah, we both understood this reunion carried the potential to stir up old storms. The backyard was vibrant and alive when we arrived. Colorful balloons swaying gently in the breeze. Long tables filled with homemade dishes. Familiar old neighbors whose faces brought back a rush of memories. Mark stood near the grill with Lisa and their now 8-year-old son. He had put on noticeable weight. The once effortless charm had been replaced by something heavier and more worn. The instant he spotted me walking up the garden path, Ethan's protective arm around my waist, Lucas and Lily's small hands securely in ours, Mark's face lost all color. Shock flashed across his features, quickly darkening into something sharper and more turbulent. Whispers rippled through the gathered guests like a sudden breeze. Sophia, and is that really her? Look at those children. They couldn't possibly be. This can't be happening. Mark's mother was the first to reach me. She pulled me into a tearful embrace, then knelt carefully to meet the twins, her eyes shining with emotion. When she glanced up at Ethan, surprise widened her gaze. Ethan? You and Sophia? Together? Mark moved forward, his voice low and strained, with barely suppressed anger. What is this, Sophia? You show up at my mother's birthday with my oldest friend and 2 kids? After everything that happened? I kept my voice soft and measured, the same calm tone I used when reading bedtime stories, though my pulse thrummed with years of buried pain. They're 5 years old now, Mark. They're happy, healthy, and wrapped in love every single day of their lives. The silence that followed felt thick and charged with electricity. Lisa clutched Mark's arm tightly, her knuckles turning white. Finally, someone voiced the question that hung heavily in the air. Who is the father of these children? I held Mark's gaze steadily for a long moment, then turned to Ethan with a small, authentic smile, forged from years of genuine healing. Ethan stepped forward calmly, placing a protective hand on each twin's shoulder, and answered simply but firmly, I am. The entire backyard fell into a stunned, absolute hush. Even the wind seemed to pause. Mark released a short, bitter laugh that fractured at the edges. You have got to be joking, Ethan. My own best friend? You stole my wife and then decided to. No one stole anything, I interjected, and my voice carrying the full weight of every lonely, tear-filled night I had endured alone. You chose to leave me, remember? You stood in our kitchen and told me I was broken. You left for Lisa because you believed she could give you the family I supposedly never could. I reached into my purse and withdrew the folded medical letter I had safeguarded for years, the one I had requested privately after the divorce. My hands remained steady, even as old emotions surged. But here's the truth that no one in our old town ever learned. When I finally reviewed my complete medical records, the doctor explained it clearly. The infertility issues they highlighted back then, they belonged to you, Mark. Low motility, poor morphology. It was never my body that was the problem. You suspected it. You just refused to accept it. So instead, you placed the blame on the woman who loved you with her whole heart. Mark's face turned ghostly pale. Lisa took an unsteady step backward, her eyes filling with horrified realization. The longtime neighbors, who had once offered me pitying glances, now looked at Mark with fresh disbelief and discomfort. I continued speaking calmly, each word deliberate and laced with the quiet, powerful revenge I had never needed to raise my voice to achieve. I did not come here today to spoil your mother's celebration. I came because she invited me and because my children deserve the opportunity to know their extended family if they ever wish to. But I also came so you could finally witness what you discarded so thoughtlessly. I now have everything you insisted I could never possess. A husband who has never made me feel defective or unworthy. Now, two vibrant twins who run to him every morning calling him Daddy with pure joy, and a life I rebuilt with strength I didn't know I possessed. Ethan did not gloat or escalate. He simply knelt down, drew Lucas and Lily close, and whispered something playful that sparked immediate giggles from them, their innocent laughter cutting beautifully through the heavy tension. Mark appeared physically unwell, sweat glistening on his forehead as he struggled to process everything. His mother reached out and took my hand, squeezing it with surprising strength. I had no idea, she whispered, her voice cracking with regret. I am so very sorry, my dear. We remained for just a little while longer, long enough for the twins to chase Bubbles alongside their cousin, their delighted shrieks a bright contrast to the stunned atmosphere. And Mark eventually slipped away into the house without speaking another word. As we prepared to leave, I gave my former mother-in-law a warm, sincere hug and told her the door to our home would always remain open if she wished to spend time with the twins. There was no shouting, no dramatic scene, only the profound, quiet impact of truth settling over everyone who had once judged me so easily. On the long drive back through the mountains, the twins eventually drifted into a peaceful sleep in the back seat, their soft breathing filling the car. Ethan reached over and intertwined his fingers with mine. How are you feeling? He asked, his voice gentle and full of care. I gazed at the mountain peaks, glowing in the warm late afternoon light, and felt a genuine, unburdened smile spread across my face. I'm more than okay. Meg, after all this time, I finally feel completely free. And that, everyone, is how my husband left me. Because I was childless, only for me to return years later with beautiful twins whose father turned out to be the last person anyone ever expected. His own best friend, the man who had loved me in silence for so many years, and finally had the chance to love me openly, fully, and without any conditions. If this story moves something deep inside you, if you have ever been told you were the problem when the real fault lay elsewhere, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Please remember, you are not broken. Your worth was never something others had the right to measure or dismiss. Your story is still unfolding, and it can still become beautiful. If you believe in quiet, powerful second chances and the kind of karma that arrives with dignity instead of noise, please tap that like button. Subscribe if you want more heartfelt, real-life stories of heartbreak transforming into healing and unexpected strength. Turn on notifications so you never miss when a new video drops. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me all the way to the end. I'm Sophia, and this was my truth.